Hello.
Hello and welcome again to the Black Techies podcast. I'm your host, Herbert Seward. And again, we had a little bit of postponing for this last interview in Bandhead weekend, but I got to say, when we talk about this whole full circle thing, this is full circle for me. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. John W. Hodge. And for those of you guys that know us or follow bands in any circles, you guys kind of know who John Hodge is, or the name Hodge. You know, folks that are familiar with the fifth quarter know the term hodging, you know where that came from. So without further ado, Dr. Hodge, tell us a little bit about yourself before we talk about the book.
Okay. Well, a lot of people think that I am a band director. There are a lot of folks in the music world that think I'm a band director, but actually, I am an educator. I started out as an English teacher. A lot of folks think that I actually marched in the band. I did not march in the band. I went to A&T on an athletic scholarship, but I was a part of the band because I became the voice for halftime. So that's the tie-in. I'm still an educator, plan to stay in it for as long as I can. I'm president of a company called Urban Learning and Leadership Center, and we provide training and staff development for schools all over the country. So that's my normal job. So I'm still talking.
Yeah, man. And I gotta say, you know, I mean, we always talk about how cool it would be to interview friends and colleagues and people that share, you know, the bond of HBCU bandom, you know, in our communities. And that's been the recurring theme, you know, bringing this book to light and advertising it over the weekend. Sure. But, you know, this has been a blast for me, you know, between you and Dr. Christy Walker and Dave, you know, my counterpart on, you know, on the founder of the Black Techies, which, you know, I've actually had, you know, been blessed to inherit. This has been awesome. So about the book and your offering in it, without telling the audience, you know, without giving away any spoilers, what can you say about your story in the book and how it's going to relate to people that read it?
All right. So I had a unique position, I think, in writing the book because I most certainly didn't feel like I was writing it for me. I felt like I was writing it for my dad, Mr. Carlson, who was the person who actually hired my father, and of course, Dr. Kenneth Ruff, who is there right now, and all the kids who went through that program. So I wanted to write a story that would span, you know, like the 40s and 50s and take you all the way up to where we are now, which was very hard to do in 1,500 words. Very hard. But
yeah.
No matter what, if you are an old head from A&T or another school, you'll be able to read the content and relate to it. So it's a broad view of the A&T marching band story.
Now, I gotta ask this because we both know your dad.
Yep.
And we both had our experiences with your dad.
Several.
So if there's anything that people that read your story or read your part in the book and they wonder about your father, what would be the first thing that you would communicate to the reader in regards to your dad and what your dad not just meant for obviously to you and your fam, but to people around them?
I tell you what, people will be shocked by the story because it does not highlight the Dr. Hodge of legend. You know, being cussed out by Doc is like almost like a rite of passage. You know, just what did he say to you? You know, that kind of thing. This has a reflection of his confidence. From 1991, when they went to this big battle of the bands, it will reflect that. It'll also reflect his humility, because he was motivated to become what he became by the same man who hired him. And that's a part of the story that a lot of people don't like. Not that they don't like, but they don't know. That never comes up. But Dad and Mr. Carlson met when my father was a teenager, and coincidentally, Dad and Dr. Ruff met when Dr. Ruff was a teenager. So it's almost like they passed on the torch, which is interesting. So it was fun to write. It was fun to write. It's not the norm you would expect from me. I think a lot of people would expect me to put some fire on the page a little bit, but I've always tried to be diplomatic. I did not go into this experience trying to compare A&T or A&T's band experience with anybody else's. What I really wanted to do, Herb, is offer a unique perspective, because to my knowledge, I think I may have been the only participant who was the son of a band director, but not actually in the band.
Yeah.
I think that's a unique perspective,
Yeah. And I think just speaking for myself and seeing that perspective, that dynamic up close and personal, it's an interesting one. And, for the folks, and folks that are watching out here that are part of, that are alumni of the BGMM or know who Dr. Johnny Hodge was, you already know the deal. You already know, what type of individual he was and the impact that he left on people. I mean, my own experience, and I had to tell this story while I got the opportunity to tell it.
Sure.
During my time in the military in the late 90s, I was still connected to the culture. And this man here calls me up one day, and we had by this time we had all been a part of the Fifth Quarter community, the online platform that Christy Walker and Mike Lee developed. I get a call from John Hodge Jr. and he asked me, well, my father wants you to. Well, evidently his father had read my writing, and I was just, I had just started writing the View from the Sidelines column on the Fifth Quarter, and this was completely out of the blue. And John was like, well, my dad wants you to come in and act as an advisor. And this is during, I believe it was 1988, 1998, 99 season.
Yeah, it was. I think this was going into 99. So
yeah.
In order for you to be there, you had to have a security clearance.
Yeah. And you talk about a person that, I mean, I already, knew of Dr. Hodge through, circles at UDC, through my previous band director at UDC, Mr. Lloyd Hoover. But being called by him and sitting in his office, making sure that I'm kind of on my P's and Q's and I'm listening to exactly what he's asking me to do. Mm-hmm. And there's a way that Dr. Hodge kind of picks you apart. Sitting, and he doesn't have to say a word. He's just looking at you, and you can tell that the gears are rolling, and he's analyzing you. He's analyzing what you're saying, how you say it, how you carry yourself. And it was one of the most exhilarating and one of the most terrifying moments that I've ever had.
It's interesting. Never thought about that experience from your perspective, because it's like, to us, it was a normal thing to do in that you're familiar with the mystery shopper concept,
Yeah.
or letting someone who has a level of expertise in an industry give you feedback. I mean, that's how you become better at whatever you want to become. Some of the kids knew you, but a lot of them didn't. But the feedback that you gave us was on point, and it was from another person's perspective. And it's something about having, someone you don't know give you a critique. It can stick. It'll stick with you. So we found that very helpful. That was a very, very beneficial thing to have happen to our band. And I mean, you were on point with with what you were saying. I mean, it was like we were beside you going, yeah, that's true. That's true. So I think that's a great experience with bands. And I tell you what, it happens in the world of work all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So that was a real positive.
Yeah, and I want folks out there that are watching that may not necessarily be as familiar with the culture as we are, to kind of put this in perspective. It's a rarity to have somebody, much less leadership from a HBCU band program, call somebody from another HBCU band program to offer insight and input in a consultation capacity. It's unheard of.
But it is extremely rare. I would say what you had going for you is Dad knew who your professors were. He knew Mr. Hoover. He had already read your writing. He kind of knew what to expect. So you had already been sized up. You had already been screened. So, but yeah, you're right though. Herb, that kind of thing is rare. But we were in new times. I mean, back then, I think my first post on this thing called the Fifth Quarter was in 1998.
Yeah.
So, we were the world was changing for us. So we had access to people that we didn't have access to. It is rare for a band director at an away game to give up his baton to another band director. Let him direct his band. That's a rare thing. But that's something that my dad did for Emory Fears for many reasons, but among them, a high level of respect for who Mr. Fears is and what he did for Black college band directors following him, because Mr. Fears was a little bit older than my dad. And bottom line, at every level, Fears was a great band director. So you don't mind giving up your baton and asking that person to direct your band. So that's another one of those unique things. You're from Alabama State, you're giving feedback. Then, the day of the game, some dude you never met, but is important, is directing your band.
Yeah.
That's another. But then a lot of the kids saw the respect that Dad had for him, and that was, that was enough. You knew that this person was worthy. So that was fun for me.
So, in your time as the voice of the Blue and Gold Marching Machine,
Yes.
what was the most memorable experience that you've had against another band program?
Oh gosh, that is so difficult. I can't do it, Herb. I can't. There are too many.
There's flexibility to this question. You can name multiple things.
Too many years. I'm too old. I'm old, so I got too much. All right, so let me give you John Hodge's band highlights. All right. So if you come down from outer space, you don't know what an HBCU band is, and I'm your tour guide, and I can give you what's in my database. So I'm going to show you the ABC. It was either ABC or CBS broadcast of Florida A&M versus Jackson State in 1978. I'm going to let you see that pageantry, let you see how the crowds reacted, the commentary from those who were calling the game, the fact that we were on, television on a Saturday. Now it means nothing. Kids are just used to it. But back then, that was major television. So that's part of it. I would then show you the marching band of a gentleman named Ronald Sargent of South Carolina State.
Marching 101.
The Marching 101 during the years 1978 to 1982, which I think are among the greatest ever. His display during those years and after, tremendous. So that would be on the tour. I would show you the 1991 band from North Carolina A&T, the small band with the big sound, because that was the band that was kind of labeled, got 96 kids. What are you going to do with them? And that was a very seasoned group. You had some very good instrumentalists in that group, and for them to achieve what they achieved was tremendous. I'll show you 1973 A&T, 1986 Southern, 1986, 87 Texas Southern.
Uh-huh.
We're
running down a litany list of things.
Yeah, I'm putting Bama State 93. I think, yeah. I'm putting Tennessee State on there the year they played If This World Were Mine, and they sang it. I mean, it's unfair for you to even think I could isolate it. For A&T, the most meaningful moments were in 1996 when Dad met Dr. Foster, I think for the third time, but he was very young when he had met him before. And one of the things that my dad believed in his career, if you're going to call yourself one of the better bands in the country, which I think we are, then you got to face the snake. You got to go down there and face the snake. And if you do well, then you are validating what you claim. So the 96 band goes and faces the snake. They actually played marches together. They went back and forth a few times. It was a wonderful experience. 94 versus Southern. I just wish I had more footage. 8 versus Southern. 1999 shock SEAL Team 6 move against the MEAC, who we purposely lied to and said that kids were quitting and the band was gonna suck in 99. Yes.
Hodging. The birth of Hodging. Man.
I got on the fifth, told some dudes, I know who it was, from Norfolk State, but I don't want to say his name because we're grown. But I told him, I was like, look, man, let him know. I shouldn't be telling you this, but I don't think the band's going to be able to make the trip. Oh, God. I mean, it was like, oh, man. And so here's what I knew that's so devious. And this is my dad and me. Here's what I knew. I knew that he was going to take that information to his band director and maybe a dean. And they were going to ask, is your source reliable? Who is it? And he's going to say, the son of the band director, who, he would know. He had just talked to his dad, lying my tail off the whole time. I mean, I think one time I convinced one person we had 9 trumpets or something like that. I think we had close to 30. The thing about that band was that they were small, but man, they were brassy. So when
Yeah.
they hit you with a song, you felt it. So those were great years, man. Um,
So
I can't pick one. I can't. It's
so let
impossible.
so let me ask you about one before we go on down the question list here. Las Vegas against Southern University.
Uh-huh.
What are the first things that come to mind about that matchup and that dynamic between Isaac Greggs and your dad and those two bands at that time?
The relationship starts pre 90s. Um, I think they met each other for a second time in 94 when A&T played Southern. And people forget about that game, but that game kind of set up 2003 because it was Southern is a band program that I have admired for years, but they can be a bit bullyish. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, they can. Yeah, so it's Southern, right? They talk junk. They let you have it, right? Well, the 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 advantage that we had was we didn't have access to technology like we do now, so they had no clue what they were going to see from us, and we shocked them. We did. 2003. I see how large A&T can be if it chooses to be. Um, they have a method of going about their business now that I love, and that I love the presentation of the band. It has there's a look and a brand to it. Um, the bands back in the day, the 2003 band that faced Southern was Dr. Ruff's first band. That was the year my dad retired. So that's the transition year. Dad retired in 2003. Dr. Ruff took over as band director in 2003. But that band went after Southern. It is obvious. And I think that when that happens, a degree of respect has to be given. Whether it's admitted on social media is another thing. But what I like about our battles against Southern is they're definitely um, not afraid of anyone, but the spirit of A&T's bands is that we want you to take us lightly so that we can knock you out. That was the thing. That was the whole thing. You under promise and you over deliver. And those were fun years. Southern versus A&T 2003. I see Force versus Force. I see Southern, who has another band that close to them, actually kind of go back at them, with some songs. Um, I think it took some adjusting for them, but they are Southern. Bands in the SWAC are more battle tested than a lot of bands in the MEAC because it's the way you all roll. Every game is a battle, right? Um, One of the things that I think my dad was most proud of is that and his bands were battle ready. I mean, if you wanted to stick around after the game and play a while, we had a book for you.
Yeah, your dad was bulldog.
I mean,
So he's real bulldog in terms of and and I think um anybody that ever, got a chance to, meet him and pick his brain and really, get a chance to talk to him, understood that wasn't just, something that you could turn off. That was
that was really him.
that was him.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, in talking about the book and sharing these experiences, I'm really excited for readers to be able to see that type of depth in people and that type of spectrum of experiences that, folks that are immersed in the culture in any capacity,
Right.
get to experience.
I,
Um,
I love the way band is a metaphor for life. I think nobody listening or looking, uh, the story that will be read by many, I hope, about my dad is that he achieved what he achieved in his career because he had help. And that's something that I think some of us have forgotten, that you know I was raised to believe that I should work as hard as I can. I should achieve levels as high as I can. And when I do, I turn around and I pull as many as I can to where I am. I'm my job is to help. And I don't know I don't know if everybody realizes that the way they used to. Um,
yeah.
you know,
Well, I think that's an awesome segue into the question that I was going to ask, which was essentially everybody that's immersed in the culture, knows that HBCU band culture is unique. And the question that a lot of people ask or want to ask, before reading the book is how important is HBCU band culture within the framework of HBCUs in general, in
I,
terms of HBCU culture?
I think there are at least, if you look at all the HBCUs, the schools, I could safely say that for 60 to 70% of those schools, the marching band is the focal point of their public branding. Now, that right there is significant. It's hard to measure what that means, qualitatively, because, how do you measure having a positive perception of you? But I'm telling you, it is a big, big deal. So HBCU bands, in many ways, are ambassadors for every single school they represent. It forces you to have self-discipline. Just the idea of, people don't know how hard these kids work. I mean, they're going to band camp, they're going to practice. Then a lot of them are taking what, 15, 18. Seen kids take 21 hours and still stay in the band and still maintain a great grade point average. So I think it teaches you self-discipline, a an issue that I would like to see gone. No, I won't say gone. An issue I think that should be addressed in the world of HBCU bands is that we should structure the things that we do in such a way that you become a better musician and a better human being, but never one that's harmed in any way. I'm, one of those people who think you can have a challenging time becoming a part of the band that does not involve uh, physical harm to you. And I'm saying that because I want us as a people to start to love ourselves um, even more than we do. We see how dangerous it is being, picked up or stopped by the wrong police officer. And I want to see us as a people um, develop each other and help each other and have more self-love, which is, I mean, that you get that at an HBCU. You feel nurtured. When
Yeah.
I missed a practice as a college athlete, my coach knocked on my dorm door that day. Now that's not going to happen at a large school. And he called my parents
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah, I can remember my own experiences with Danny Davis. Um, you know, my first couple of weeks on campus at Alabama State, DC kid, you know, fish out of water on campus. And I mean, first day I walked into his office, he's like, "Look, I got expectations of you. You got a good recommendation from Mr. Hoover, you know." And he actually, I found out later on, he did a lot to make sure that I was able to go there and to audition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know, that kind of standard is the norm
Yeah.
in terms of being held accountable, and you know, just a number of things, everything from time management to, you know, respecting others,
Those are
and
life skills. I
yeah,
you're gonna need it. I think the friendships that you develop in band are extremely important. A lot of kids move on campus and they are the only person they know on campus. They know nobody else. And all of a sudden, overnight, you've got 250 siblings.
yeah.
And that's, that kind of network is important. Um, the, I learned a lot about people, being around the band, seeing how bands interact. Um, Ultimately, the biggest lesson that I've learned from my dad is determination and intensity. Couple of reasons I'm so hard to catch this week. We're working like crazy at the job, and I'm working with a publisher on another book. So that kind of drive comes from both my parents. But if you knew my dad, it came from him, for real. He was really like that, and I know it carries over to life for a lot of his students.
And again, perfect segue into the next question. And you have a pretty extensive professional, you know, life outside, you know, after school, obviously. Um, you got the doctor by your name. That took a lot of work. And you're at the cutting edge of education, in terms of, you know, modernizing education for kids.
Hmm.
How would you say your experiences, you know, with the Blue and Gold Marching Machine during your time, you know, working with your dad, translates to all of those things that you've experienced and worked on?
It's hard to overstate it because um, the way the story goes, Turner Battle used to be the announcer for A&T's band. But Turner's a brilliant musician. He had some gigs he couldn't announce, so Dad made me announce. I did not want to be the announcer for A&T's band. Well, that happened in 1985. That's when that happened. All right. So 85, 95, 22 years later, a person walks up to me with a card and says, I'm an agent. I've heard you speak before, and I want to start booking you for speaking engagements. That journey started in 1985 when I was horrified to speak in front of anybody for a lot of reasons. And now, um, part of what I do for my company is I provide keynote speeches to large groups that deal with education. So you, it's you, you can't be more connected than that. To pick up a microphone and be regarded as an expert in a subject area is an honor. Little tricks that I learned as a on the mic with the marching band is that crowds follow instructions. So so if you want if you want your band to be clapped for at a certain point, you say, "Hey, give the band a round of applause." You can. That's one of the little tricks. Like you are sort of a court jester in that people will follow what you say. Um, I do think that if your band is cooking, you let them be the center of attention and not you. Um, I am. I used to be pretty good at talking noise on the mic. I was I could be deadly if I wanted to. And then I started thinking about, well, that's another HBCU. Remember, I told you we need to start loving ourselves more.
Yeah.
I don't need to say something derogatory about another band or school. Not now, especially not now. It's all about uplift. And I'm proud of where the bands are now. Um, Across the board, their branding is good. I think the way they are capturing what they do uh, technologically is fantastic. Of course, light years from where we were, because back in the day, Pop was like, "Don't film us. We want to shock everybody." Well, see, I wish he had more film of himself. Um, the uh, the intensity of marching bands of the past. Morgan State. Remember Morgan State?
Yeah.
Okay.
1983.
See what I mean? Like that Howard with Blue Drum Howard. Them. All right. I miss that kind of intensity, but I love the craft today because I see a blending of core and historical elements from our craft done in a wonderful way, and I like that part. Um, being in an organization, you realize people are not going to like everything you say. And one other thing I learned from my dad is there are times in your life when you really straight up should not give a damn what people think,
Yeah.
um, and you should speak your mind. Now, when that time is up to you, but there will come a time in your life when that is needed, and he definitely left that to me and a lot of the kids that he touched. I am so like right now this week. I'm reminded of him. We're coming up on the anniversary of his death in about a week, and you were among the first people I called when he passed, and you wrote a tribute to him that I could not write. So again, that's HBCU networking, HBCU love at work, right there, because I really did not have the capacity to write that. Um,
Yeah. And I got to be honest, man. I was when you gave me that call that day to write, your father, a tribute to your dad. Um, I was pretty scared
mhm.
because I know, number one, I know how much your dad meant to you, and I know how much respect I have for him. And um, I think those sorts of experiences, are a perfect example of how tight knit, the community of HBCU bands is.
Yep.
Um, and I mean, the fact of the matter that I had to do the same thing for my former director at UDC for Mr. Hoover,
Yeah.
which again is something that to this day both. Um, it took a lot for me to write those, and um, in a way, it was an experience that I needed, but at the same time, I was just happy that I could put the kind of person Dr. Hodge was, you know, in its proper context,
Yeah,
and in a proper way.
we were honored and are forever grateful, because just not having to worry about that um, was important. And then, you know, when people die, they're still with you, of course, but what's left behind are things like that. So when his grandson says, "Well, what was the granddad like? What did he do?" Well, I can show him. Look at what people said about him, and that's how you pass the culture on to the next group. Um, Again, in my personal life and professional, the violence that I see against Black people, and the violence I see when we do it to ourselves, between us, um, bothers me, because um, I know for a fact that the only reason that happens is we don't realize our own greatness. And another benefit of the HBCU experience was, um, I was told I was smart by professors, and I was told I had talent to do, whatever I wanted to do. And I've got colleagues who went to other schools who did not have that experience. So I'm indebted for life to that experience. Um, I'm trying not to talk too much about the story in the book, because it will give away the good parts. But it just shows you. I think I mentioned this in the book, that of course, the past year has been crazy. A lot of people don't know what path that they're going to be on uh, in terms of life. Your path is already set for you. No matter who you are, it's there. Um, I believe that God puts people on your path in your life to influence you in positive ways, and uh, that was definitely his story.
Yeah.
That was it. When he met Mr. Carlson, Mr. Carlson could have said, "Get out of my face, kid." He could have been rude, but he was very encouraging. And if you're a little kid, like, a teenager, and you meet Walter Carlson in 1955, that's like meeting, like, you just met Superman. And for him to say, "Hey, keep at it, keep working," oh, it was over. It was over then. And
So
yeah,
I got one last question for you,
okay.
and this is gonna take a little. I want you to be really honest about this one.
Hmm.
If there was ever a time during your time working with your dad as announcer for North Carolina A&T, and there was a band that you did not want to see,
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
who
yeah.
would
Uh,
it be?
just in general, um, it wasn't the band; it was the timing. Because there are a lot of good bands in the SWAC and MEAC, but during homecoming week, do you really want Bethune-Cookman showing up when you know we're gonna have 30,000 in the in the crowd, and most of the kids in the band have studied and or partied the whole week, and that's the homecoming band. Yeah, I think I would like better planning. Um, you do not want, and I never experienced this, but I'm just telling you from experience, because I've seen them do it to other people. Southern shows up at your stadium early, and your people start flowing in, and they just start cranking. You don't want that. You don't want that. And if A&T gets on a theme on the field, And if they feel a ballot in the stands, they are very hard to top. Very hard to top. I will say that without question. They are. And I'm loving what I'm seeing from a lot of programs, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I got to say, man, this has been a blast. This whole weekend, ending it, this way, tonight, interviewing, who I like to. I'm glad that I can call a friend.
Oh yeah, sure,
forever, man. And for those of you that are watching, yes, I know the Black Techies podcast is normally about technology in the intersection of it, but we're also about supporting HBCU culture. And the release of this book for the HBCU Experience, the Alumni Band Edition, is something that we're all very excited about. It dropped Tuesday, and it is already approaching bestseller status on Amazon. Wow. So we are really, really excited to pick up the book. There are 36 contributing authors to this project. Wow. Each of them have a very unique perspective and experience about their time immersed in HBCU band culture.
The bios are great.
The bios are great. Like I said, everybody that contributed, thank you. You see the book, buy it. It's worth it.
And know that there's a part 2 coming soon, I hope, because I had to like chop down from like 10 stories. You know how hard that is? I mean, seriously. So I got other stuff to say. I cannot wait for another opportunity. I hope I get one.
We've got confirmation today, unofficially, that there will be a part 2.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah. So I would,
about the cuss outs. I didn't get to talk about any of the cuss outs. Not this first one. But
that might have to be an uncut book. That might have a rating on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I think tonight, was being about completing the circle and being able to talk about these experiences and bring to our audiences that normally don't hear, about this subculture. But what it's really all about.
It's produced some of the most influential Black people in our history. And I am just extremely proud to be a part of it. Just a small part of it, It's just a real honor.
Yeah. So for those of you guys watching, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Dr. Hodge, for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
For folks that are looking for our regularly scheduled programming, we will be back with the regular cast of crew, the cast of characters on the Black Techies podcast. And we got a few new members that have walked the burning sands of Black Techiedom to be members of the podcast. So stay tuned with that. We're going to leave you with information about the book. So look at the advertisement for the book. And until next time, everybody, hail Wakanda.
Bye. All right, thanks, man.
Thank you, man.
Give me a call. Thank you, man.
The first ever HBCU Band Anthology, the HBCU Experience. The HBCU Band Alumni Edition is a collection of stories written by prominent HBCU Band alumni throughout the world. HBCU Band alumni who are doing great things in their careers, businesses, and communities nationally and internationally. The authors share their stories and experiences of how being a HBCU band member has molded them into the people they are today. Purchase your copy today and support the HBCU experience, the HBCU Band Alumni Edition at Amazon.com.